Great. So welcome again to Introduction to Wikidata. Um, before we move on with that, I'm going to make sure that um, this session will not be that long, but however will be much more centered on what we are supposed to grab, the knowledge you are supposed to acquire by the end of this particular session. And at the end of the day, we will all know how Wikidata works, how we can contribute to Wikidata, and how we can be able to also facilitate introduction to Wikidata sessions within our community or within any space that we do find ourselves in. Right. Good. So before this project came up, we have the CEO or one of the co-founders for Wikimedia Foundation, which is the mother organization for this particular project, whereby we also have one particular phrase that we do, or we all do believe in, which is Imagine a world in which every single person on this planet is able, it's given access to some of our knowledge freely, and they can be able to also contribute to this knowledge without any form of hindrance as a whole. So when we talk about Wikidata, basically when we say Wikidata, what really comes into mind? With the word wiki, right? And with the word data. So when we say data, we all have uh, prior knowledge when it comes to data being a collection of information, right? Or of information or set of values, right? To be able to address uh, specific subjects, being the subject being meaningful or not meaningful as a whole, right? Good. When it comes to data, too, there are different types of data. One is unstructured data, and the other one is structured data. When it comes to unstructured data, we can be able to also find some forms of data that consists of text, images, audios, videos, smell, or even taste, right? That are being combined or accumulated in one particular place that we can be able to also classify all of this as data, right? So all of this, once all of this data is being calculated, we can be able to say if the information that is being provided is much more meaningful. It's not meaningful. And inside some text too, we can be able, some text come together to be able to also form uh, comprehension or even maybe a poem or a script, a story, or etc. Now, when it comes to structured data, whereby with the kind of an approach that Wikidata uses, right? With most structured data, we can be able to identify that most of these data found in data set that are well organized, that able to that can be analyzed also help in terms of really being able to generate much more insights or meaning out of that particular data, right? With structured data too. So with regards to structured data, there are some organizations that really work with structured data. One of these organizations is Google, or let's say, yeah, Facebook, right? So even with Facebook, you get to notice that there are people who are able to share their stories. There are people who are able to share images, audios, videos, and etc. Right, and Facebook as well. So all of these information or all of these data that are being shared on Facebook come together to form that when it comes to we classify that as structured data. Right. Now, when it comes to Wikidata, since it has been sorted very much, it is well structured. Yeah, it is well structured and well organized for people to be able to generate meanings out of this particular data. That is how we approach that Wikidata first, be able to, for us to be able to also come up with Wikidata. And as I stated earlier, structured data could be in a form of a list, maybe a list of items, a list of maybe things, a list of cars, a list of countries. All of this, once we are being lined up or are being listed within one particular column, right, it makes sense. And it can be identified as a structured data, right? Sometimes when working, you normally find, let's say, when you work with some applications such as Excel and etc., this you will be able to identify that there are uh, key information, let's say information within specific columns and rows within those applications that we use for analysis, right, for statistics too as well. When you use the sense database, so database basically normally basically holds, let's say, data sets or holds data whereby uh, there are different types of databases that can be also found as well, right? Then we have linked data. So linked data is basically data that are interconnected between within each other. And, we can say that well, just like how the internet works, and just like how our networks works, right? The, we are able to send information from one point to the other to the other point, from one person to the other person. Then based on that too, since these data are mostly linked together, we can be able to find or identify some similarities or some key inputs that are much more similar within these endpoints or within two people or more people communicating together as a whole. That's how linked data works. Now, when it comes to Wikidata as a whole, there are two key problems that Wikidata basically addresses. So data that has been dated back, right, lacking triggers or repetitive work. Sometimes when you visit our archives and museums that normally hold, let's say, documents that have been there for long. And sometimes when we are searching for these kind of documents, it takes a long while to be able to find this particular document. Meanwhile, someone came there last week also looking for the same document. And after submitting that same document back, let's say, yeah, submitting that same document back, it was placed within the where it was supposed to be placed. But searching for all of these documents makes it much more difficult. So when it is being digitalized, right, and being placed in a database, it's easier to be able to key out such information or such documents, right? But it makes it much more easier for us to be able to locate such documents. Right? And it also makes it much more easier for us to be able to also contribute to such documents if we are looking for a particular document to be able to contribute to. In terms of practical ways of natural queries of language, after the it's just like how you present that of your experience and limitations with regards to when you visit the library, there are shelves, and within these shelves, you can be able to also notice that there are books that have been categorized within its subject matter. Right? So if, for instance, we are looking for books related to mathematics, we know the place to be able to visit and the shelf to visit in order to be able to find such books. If you are looking for books related to science, we know the shelf to be able to also visit. Then we can be able to also find such books as a book. And since Wikidata works with these databases, for these databases, as long as the data grows, we can be able to expand its coverage or its storage as a whole. That's how we can, that these are like the two ways in which data that is being documented on Wikidata can be able to live long or can be preserved for longer generations and from generations to generations to also have access to all of these data, all of those data. Now, one solution that Wikidata also comes up with, it's been a central storage, as I stated earlier. And with this particular central storage, it can be increased right, from time to time. And the access being increased based on its cloud detail, if based on its service. Based on that, we can be able to store, we can be able to keep on storing a lot of data. And all of these data being on this particular central storage, one looking for anything related to data, we can be able to find such data once we key in the kind of data we are searching for. Or if it's a good, if it's an item, because any information that we want to find, we can be able to find such data, right? And how it works in a way is that it is being structured. It works with the structured formats whereby it comes within a structure, and this structure is basically classified as a schema. When we say a schema looks it's like data that has to be simplified, right? Out of its simplicity, it gives an abstract information pertaining to the kind of data, pertaining to the kind of information that you are looking for with regards to data that you want to have access to, right? And since this data is basically stored within one central storage, most of the time it is being linked together in a sense that it is being linked together in a sense of similarities. And if there are slight differences within that too, we can be able to identify them based on the kind of items that we also do find, right? And it being on a wiki makes the interface much more user friendly and easier to be able to also navigate, right? And also, this whole project is basically an open source project. So the license under this data, under this repository, right, gives free access to anyone to be able to use, to contribute, and to be able to also share as well, right? Okay. Now, so in one word, all of us on the call, based on what I've said, um, in one word, can we tell what Wikidata is about in one word in the chat? In one word, if everyone can be able to tell me what Wikidata is about, chat. In one word, if anyone can tell me what Wikidata is, the chat. Linked data, okay. But then, Linda, Barbara, in one word, can you tell me what Wikidata is all about? The chat. Okay. Open data. Great. Magdan, Melinda, if you're on the call in one word, can you tell me what you think Wikidata is all about? Okay, repository of data. Okay, so we can continue. Right. Good. So as I stated earlier, good. So as I stated earlier, Wikidata works in a way that most of the data that is being hosted within this central storage, right, is being connected to each other in a sense that if we want to find maybe a category, let's say different types of books within a specific continent, we can be able to query that out and be able to generate a list of books within this particular, within that specific continent, right? That is how this data, that is how data within Wikidata is being linked. And based on that, it helps us to be able to generate information or let's say data that can we can be able to analyze, visualize, and generate insights and recommendations how to improve the data that is being posted on Wikidata. Yes. Yeah. So as we can see, we can see that Raju, right, is a friend of Annie, and Annie's birthplace is Kochi, right? The same way Raju also comes from Kochi. Maybe Raju and one of Annie's friends also schooled, let's say, University of Delhi, right? Uh, yeah, University of Delhi. Then that means that there's something specific that links them together. So based on that, that's what uh, basically helps them to be able to have this interconnectivity as a so within a diagram, that's how a whole uh, linked data looks like. So one point from another is being linked to another point, then one point from another point is being linked to the other, right? So based on that, that's how basically works. Now, we are delving much more deeper into what Wikidata is all about. Then, beside that, Wikidata is much more editable. As I stated earlier, it's an open source project. When I say an open source project, a project that is easily accessible to anyone to edit, to contribute to it, to use, and to be able to also share as a whole. And it has been structured in a way that makes it much more easier for people to navigate their ways around this data and to be able to have access to it as well. And it's a link, and also it is linked to your data warehouse, which is the central storage that we can also notice, which is basically the servers in which host all of this information. Um, when we say what is Wikidata, it's basically a pure free software, which is free data. You can choose to pick up any data or any information from Wikidata and use it for what you want to be able to also use, uh, what you want to be able to also achieve, or if you are seeking for any kind of information that you aren't finding that, but you believe that is accessible in Wikidata, then that means that you can be able to also query out that data and pick up such information or create your data set out of Wikidata and use it for your specific things. And it's also a sister project to Wikipedia. Wikimedia has again one of the projects that Wikipedia Foundation. Right? Aside that, Wikidata is multilingual in the sense that uh, there are different language versions of Wikidata that can be found within the central storage. So with this particular central storage, it's not basically for only data sets or data that is in English, but that's the data set, right? That is in English, but these data sets, this data that is found within Wikidata can be translated into different languages as a whole. And based on that, we can be able to have different forms of data, right, within different languages inside Wikidata. And mostly, it is much more practical in terms of using within languages as a whole. So structured and linked data. So when it comes to structured data, there are three units, right, that addresses this whole structured data. Within the structured data, it should have a subject, it should have a predicate, and an object, right? And as within Wikidata, we identify the subject to be the item, then the predicate to be the property, then the object to be the value, right? So as we delve in much more, we will have basic overview of how this subject, predicate, and object looks like, right? In Wikidata, we call it item, property, and value. Okay. Now, when we are creating our data or our item within Wikidata, there are certain things that we also need to look out. So, with specific restrictions, for example, like within a time period in which that data was obtained, payment, maybe aside that to the context of the data that can be found or that is. So in terms when we say context, with regards to context, since Wikidata items is basically like the structured data, we have to be able to transform, analyze our structured data for it to be structured, what structured, to kind of structured data for us to be able to have it on Wikidata. Aside that, we also look at the source data, the source of that particular data that we found, and we want to add to Wikidata. Is it coming from a credible source, right? And the kind of data that we are adding to Wikidata, right? What point of view is it coming? Is it from a neutral point of view? Is it biased to specific subject or group? Or is it on against of a specific group of people? Yeah. Aside that, we have data statements that can be found under or within, let's say within every Wikidata item. So when these statements are basically linked to each other, enabling discovery and risk. With regards to discovery and risk, uh, anytime that we have subjects, we try to find a predicate and an object of that particular subject. So anytime that there is a property, there should be something that relates, there should be a property that relates to the item. The same way there should be a value for that particular item, right? Sometimes you will just think of the value that relates to that particular item, but it's a bit difficult to be able to find that particular value. Right. Good. Now, so this is a brief insight to what I'm talking about. When, for instance, when we say a universe is basically what? An item, right? Good. Or a subject, just like how we can be able to also have that here. Where inside the universe, we have Earth, right? Someone can say Earth, or we can specifically go down and say Ghana as a country, or let's say Earth as a whole, right? When we say Earth as the item inside the Earth, or inside the Earth, we have continents. So the continent becomes the property of the item that is called Earth. Then inside the continent, we should have a value. The value should be a country, right? When we think of that, when we are thinking of a continent as a property, we should be able to have a value, right? And this particular value, right, should be a country. So with any country, a country is within a specific continent, right, falls under the value, falls under the value of the property, right? Addressing it as the value, right? So when we say, when we mention all of these, what I've listed about the universe, Ghana, these are like bigger places, right? That can be identified as an item, right? And inside that particular items, right, we can be able to come up with different or a lot of properties. And inside this particular properties too, we can be able to come up with a lot of values, right? That can be able to also help us to um, generate a lot of statements under a specific uh, generate a lot of statements under a specific Wikidata item, right? So for instance, when we say Ghana being a Wikidata item, we can be able to find a lot of properties. So a lot of properties as in what is Ghana known for? Side that what is the flag of the is there any image of Ghana? So inside the image of Ghana, what can we add as the image of Ghana? The value of that image should be the flag, right? Or maybe the landscape of a particular region within Ghana, right? Yeah. The same goes for Accra, the universe as a whole. Good. So as we can see over here, when we visit a Wikidata item, we can be able to identify the property. So as we can see, the item F, right? The item F comes with properties such such as instance of. So with these properties, instance of this F is basically an inner planet within the universe. So it being an inner planet within the universe, we can be able to have value as the inner planet. Then the property will be the instance. Now, when we say part of means part of being the property, right? Then we having the part of as a property, we can be able to have maybe an Earth and Moon system. So how the Earth, right, is able to rotate around the Moon, right? Yeah. Yeah. The same goes for all of the planets that we can be able to identify as a group. Good. Now, this is an image of, let me say, this is a screenshot of one Wikidata item, the Earth, right? So based on that, we can be able to identify, or we can be able to see that all of these Wikidata items have images, whereby these images are the values of the Wikidata items. And we have media legend, or we have distance from Earth, distance from Mars, distance, all of these are basically properties that can be added within the statements of Wikidata item. Now, based on this particular image, or based on the screenshots that we see over here, we can be able to notice that we have a specific structure, how Wikidata is basically structured, right? And based on that, we can be able to see that all of these have labels. When I say labels, basically letters, but letters and numbers representing a specific Wikidata item, or a specific Wikidata property, or a specific Wikidata value, right? So all of this comes together, right, to form a statement. And however, this state all of in every Wikidata item, you can be able to see a lot of statements within every Wikidata item. And within every Wikidata item, we can be able to spot the statements. Then from the statement, we can be able to spot under the statement, you can be able to spot the property and the value as a whole. Good. Now, as I stated earlier, so within every app, right, within every app, being the Wikidata item, we can be able to spot a property. So the highest point of the app, right, that's a property for the Wikidata item. Now from there, we can be able to, when we have the higher, when it comes into our, it has the highest point of the app, being the property of the Wikidata item app, then that means we have to find the answer for that. So when we say the highest point of the earth is Mount Everest, now we know that Mount Everest is the highest point of the earth. So we know when we answer, now that answer that we are seeking for becomes the value. Yeah. So now when we have a value, when we have a value, that's what makes our statement. The same goes for Mount Everest. So Mount Everest can be a Wikidata item. Now, at Mount Everest, we want to know information about sea level, right? So based on its height above sea level, what its what's its height, right? So based on that, we can be able to identify um, the elevation above sea level will be a property. Then, what is the answer, or what is the elevation above the sea level? What is it in meters? So what's in meters becomes for the value. Right? The same goes for the earth again. So within the earth, once you have the highest point, you have to seek for the deepest point too, right? So if Mount Everest is the highest point, then the deepest point, you have to search for it too. So the deepest points within the earth should be the Challenger Deep. And that Challenger Deep, right, definitely be the value of of the Wikidata item Earth, the property the deepest points, right? So basically, this whole when working on a Wikidata item is it involves logical arrangement. It also involves a little bit of thinking, questions and answers, right? Questions and answers as a whole. And based on that, we can be able to also, within one way or the other, we can be able to even use this in form of education to be able to also educate others. Other people can be able to also um, have information or acquire information pertaining to whatever they also look for as a whole. Right. Now, when we look for the Challenger Deep, just like how we did for Mount Everest, we also search for about information about sea level, right? Then that particular value, right? Its unit, we will be able to also have that value to address the value, property value, the value for the property that we have for the challenger deal. Yeah. Now, when we go to a Wikidata item X, right, and you have all of this particular properties, we can be able to also use these properties to be able to get the values. So just like how we have this particular format, so the F becomes the Wikidata item, and under the statements, right, where we have the instance of, um, where we have the instance of the value, the instance of being the property, and that means after the instance of, we can add another statement called the highest point. We can assign that to, we can add another statement called the deepest point of the earth. Then under the highest point of the earth, that particular statement, we need to add a value. that, that part within that particular statement of the highest point, we need to add a value for the property of the highest point, which will basically be Mount Everest, right? So then inside Mount Everest, being that particular value, we can be able to also add, let's say, natural sources or something to be able to back up what we are saying, why we are saying that Mount Everest is the highest point on the earth. So that is when we can be able to have information about sea level in that Everest. We will get to that particular stage, and I just want to have a little explanation within that particular section. And once we are able to add this, and once we are able to add the challenger deep, the elevation above sea level, and therefore the Mount Everest it being the value, right, addressing the property that we have, which is the highest point, we can be able to also do same for the deepest points. Based on what we have at the moment, if there are any questions, you can feel free to let me know in the chats. If there aren't any questions, I can feel free and continue. Okay, great. If there aren't any questions. Okay. So as you can also see here, F being the item, the highest point being inside the statement being the first proxy, then inside the proxy, which is Mount Everest, you have the value, and then which is Mount Everest, right? And inside Mount Everest, we have the value, right? Good. So the highest point being the proxy, then inside the highest points, we have to add something where basically is the highest point. Then once you address the highest point inside the property, we can add a value. So the value basically becomes the elevation above sea level. Same goes for all of them. So as we can be able to also see your value. Right? So once we get to Wikidata, so we can be able to find it. Now we come to why we mostly use numbers, identifiers, right? Or let me say labels, to be able to also mark our Wikidata items, our Wikidata properties, and our Wikidata values. So basically, we have the QPQ, which is basically the first Q goes for the Wikidata item, then the P between the Qs, two Qs, stands for the property, then the last Q goes for the value. So in every Wikidata item, we can spot that after the title or the name of that particular item is being stated, beside it, there is a bracket that we have a label starting with Q. And after that particular Q, there are certain numbers that follows after that particular Q. So within this particular label, that label basically represents the Wikidata, that particular Wikidata item. So if you are trying to query Wikidata to be able to find that particular item, once you type that particular label, it will be able to help us know that, or it will be able to help Wikidata to know that this is the item, that this is the Wikidata item that we're looking for. Right? Now, why do we represent all of this with labels, right? Because when we say that, an example is London. When we say London, people within England will identify that as a city. People within Canada will also identify that as a city. right? We think, some people will say that is their family name. Some people will say that is their personal name. Some people too will talk of a movie company or even a specific movie, right? Or even the name of itself. So it makes it much more difficult to be able to identify one particular item. When we represent all of these items with labels, it makes it much more easier to be able to identify, indicate what we are specifically looking for. Just like how computers work with numbers, zeros and ones, within this, it basically helps the computer to be able to also understand the information that we are trying to seek or to be able to also feed it and be able to for the computer to be able to also come out or generate what we are seeking for. With this, we basically use as natural language processing, right? Which also helps in a way that within linked data, we have different types of data, we have different types of information that comes together for us to be able to also have access to that. Within computers too, it's basically working with structured data, just like how I stated earlier. Right? Within all of these, we have text, images, videos, voice, audios, and etc. And all of these are being translated into zeros and ones. Right? Basically, computers now have zeros and ones, and based on that, it makes it much more easier for them to be able to understand, to be able to comprehend, and to be able to address and help you solve issues or problems that you want to be able to also address. So, based on all what I've said so far, this basically helps us to be able to also know how Wikidata works. Now, we know that within Wikidata, we have labels, we have properties, we have values, and all of the we have items, we have properties, we have values, and we can be able to spot our properties and values within every Wikidata statement that has been added, or every Wikidata statement that has been added to every Wikidata item. So everything within the universe of Beyond that consists of data, that consists of zeros and ones, that consists of audios, that consists of letters or anything that comes together to form a data, right? Can uploaded or can be made available or meaningful to come together as a form of a structured data and make meaningful sense with data. Now, how do we contribute to Wikidata? We first need to create an account. After creating the account, we log in or go through the verification process. And once you are done verifying our accounts, we can come back and log in. Right? Now, when we log in, how can we edit an item? We first need to search for where we can be able to click on edit an item, right? And based on that, once we click on it, we can be able to have overview of one particular Wikidata item that will allow us to be able to edit such that particular Wikidata item, right? Or add specific statements within that Wikidata item, or even add a label, a description, or index to that Wikidata item. Okay. Now, let's get to Wikidata. Okay. So as we have over here, I mean, it's basically an American author, or sorry, an American writer who has, let me say, a skill Wikidata item on Wikidata, right? So based on that, we can see that there are different languages whereby we can be able to also translate these labels into different languages, same for the descriptions and the aliases, are also known as. Now, when we come here, we can see that Kalenwet is the name of that Wikidata item, and within that Wikidata item, we have a label, like or an identifier. Let me put it this way: identifier. So with this identifier, it being starting with the Q, as I stated earlier, that Wikidata item, we can be able to, when we are querying Wikidata and we type this within our query, then that means that we are sorting out this particular Wikidata item over the web. Good. Now, when we move down, we can be able to spot label. Label is basically, let's say, a short summary, or let me say, within one sentence. How can you be able to identify that particular Wikidata item? Or based on that Wikidata item, what name can you give to that Wikidata item? Right? And based on that, you add a description. So maybe the name of that Wikidata item is called maybe a cat. So what description will you give to that particular cat? Is it an American cat? Is it an Australian cat? Is it a Turkish cat? Right. Then if there are other names too that can be given to a cat, that will be listed down here, right, in different language versions. Now, when we come to our statements, like as I stated earlier, we can be able to see that inside our statements, we have our properties within the first column. Then inside our properties, we have our values, right? Then inside our values, we have something called references, right? To be able to back up our values, or let's say sources, or yeah, credible sources. So that is where our point of our sources comes in. Then based on that, to our point of view, if the sources that we are using mostly is it from a neutral point of view, or is it credible? And based on that, we can be able to use that to back up our values that we have about it. So under Island, we can be able to spot that we have a property called image. That inside the image, we can be able to add the image, like the file, which is basically the value of our property image, right? That maybe if we have sources where we found that particular file, which is that particular image, we can be able to add that under the references. Good. Or maybe if we know the point in time in which that particular image was taken, we can be able to also add that to that. The second statement is sex or gender. Right? So for us to be able to know the gender, we add, we specify that for us to be able to also know female, female to, and the reason why female has this is because female has a Wikidata item, right? And that same Wikidata item too can also be a property for a specific Wikidata item. Now, inside this particular property, we have different kinds of properties that also tells us that Helen the word is a female. Now, we have another statement, country of citizenship. And based on the country of citizenship too, being the statement, right, we have different values. So we have the United States of America, which can also be keep it tight. Right? But in this sense, it's within this particular statement, it's a proxy. Then we have different references to be able to also back up our properties as a whole. The same goes for for all of the statements that we have. So when you mention a Wikidata item for the you can check for maybe how old is Elizabeth, maybe if when was she born, which school or which religion that she belongs to. All of these can be identified as properties. And based on these properties, we can add values for her in the word. Good. Perfect. Now let me move to your slides. Good. So there are lots of Wikidata projects that goes on each and every year. And every year too, there are projects that are Wikidata that comes up. So based on that, you can also feel free against your words and data. Also make sure that every time that there is a project, you can also have access to these projects, join these projects, learn much more about these projects, and contribute to all of this particular project as a whole. Then based on that, you also know how best to be able to also facilitate other Wikidata sessions. In this particular project, you can facilitate sessions within your community for all of the projects or projects that normally comes. Right. So when we come to the main page of Wikidata, once you click Wikidata, or you log on to wikidata.com, the main page under Welcome, you see Get Involved. And inside Get Involved, we have Wikidata introduction. We'll get there. Have how you can be able to also explore different Wikidata items, how to get started in terms of query Wikidata items. And, when it comes to Wikidata database, the language that we use in querying Wikidata items is basically it's called Sparkle. That is the database language that we use in querying Wikidata items. So, using querying Wikidata. Now, when you want to learn how to contribute, since it being your first time in that facilitating session, there's advice for the participants to follow this tutorial. This tutorial basically takes you to this particular page, which is Wikidata Collectors. Basically gives you a tour around how to contribute to Wikidata in a beginner-friendly way that will help anyone within a layman space to be able to also understand how to contribute to Wikidata. That's a good thing. Now, aside that too, lots of Wikidata projects that you can be able to also join. So there are different Wikidata projects that can be spotted within this particular page. There are lots. So anytime that you want to organize any events, you can just go through any of those particular Wikidata projects, then you identify the projects that will be of interest to the participants within your community. But based on that, you can use that Wikidata project as a campaign, or even as a project that you can be able to help your community to contribute as a Aside that too, there are Telegram groups whereby you can be able to also join. You feel free to ask questions if you need to Wikidata, need information to Wikidata. Feel free to join the groups to ask your questions, then they will be clarified by experts or experienced people reading this Wikidata. Now, aside that too, there are updates to Wikidata So you can also feel free to follow all of these updates when you get to the review section. Then okay, good. Aside that, we have a mailing list. The mailing list is basically for you to subscribe to Wikidata's mailing list, whereby you can be able to also get information about the updates, discussions, or anything related to Wikidata. That is mostly being discussed through the people suggest a discussion. Anything related to Wikidata within the good advice or projects that you are suggesting, you can feel free within the mailing list. We suggest that for people to be able to also share their ideas or contributions to the discussion. Now, um, after that, you have Wikidata tools. So lots of tools under Wikidata. Day in, day out, you have engineering to be able to simplify tools. That makes it much more easier and user friendly for people to contribute to Wikidata. So when you visit Wikimedia 2 app, you can find a list of tools, Wikidata tools that is accessible to um, everyone to be able to also use. Based on that, to any tool that you find fascinating or you feel that you can be able to also make use of, you feel free and use, explore that particular tool. When you click on Wikidata, any tool that pops up here, that's a tool of Wikidata. That makes it much more easier for people to also use. So Wikidata again is one of the tools that is available, a gamified tool that is available for people to be able to also contribute and contribute to Wikidata as a whole. Yeah. Mix and Match tool is one specific Wikidata tool that is available for people to be able to also use in terms of contributing to Wikidata. Right. Now, as I already stated earlier, Wikidata to have, you can feel free, you type within your web browser, search directory, you search for Wikimedia Toolbar, and it comes, you go into Toolbar, you click on Wikidata, and your left hand side of your screen. Once you click on it, you can explore any of the tools that pops. Now, in terms of querying Wikidata, it is advisable to learn how to query databases and have a fair idea of querying a database. So once you know how to be able to query a database and you are writing a SPARQL query or you are querying Wikidata to be able to sort out or to be able to to be able to also categorize maybe certain information or maybe a data set or specific data with regards to a specific region, that makes it much more easier in understanding how to be able to Wikidata will tell you everything it knows, but no more. When we say no more, the more data that we feed it, the more information that it holds. That's like how most of our AI chatbots works. For instance, to be able to get accurate information of AI tools such as ChatGPT, Pilot, etc., will be based on the kind of information that we feed. That's how Wikidata basically works in terms of querying Wikidata. Now, aside that, too, when we are querying Wikidata, aside it generating a list of data sets or generating specific information pertaining to a specific region, we can be able to also create visualizations and generate visualizations out of Wikidata, right? So an example is hospitals in the world. So this particular visualization that we see over here basically gives us an overview of the numbers of hospitals that can be found on Wikidata, right? So the number of hospitals that are Wikidata items that have been that have been created as Wikidata items on Wikidata. Based on that, we can be able to query that out, be able to visualize it, have sense of view, or have a better understanding of the kind of how within specific regions, how lots of hospitals can be found. Now, once we are running a query, or when we want to query Wikidata, we basically can be able to process query.wikidata.org. Right? And inside our query, we can be able to write a Sparkle query. So this that you are seeing over here is an example of a Sparkle query for the map view that I showed you guys earlier. Aside that too, based on what I've said so far, there are a lot of video tutorials that has been done, that has been documented on Wikidata for people who are new, and people who are looking forward to facilitating sessions on Wikidata to be able to also make these videos, learn how to be able to contribute to Wikidata, and also use these videos to be able to also facilitate their Wikidata sessions as a whole. So based on what I've said so far, if there are any questions, if there are any clarifications that you guys need, or if you want to address any of them, feel free to let me know. Oh, okay. Please, am I audible now? My apologies, the same I missed out. See it. I don't see it. Please, am I audible now?
Yes,
Yes, you're
please.
audible.
Great. But I guess what I said so far, everyone was able to hear the now. I wanted to know what I said so far. Was I audible enough for all of you to be able to understand what I was saying? Or I was
Yes.
unheard?
I
Okay.
think we were actually we were able to follow. It just wasn't loud enough, but we could manage.
Okay. Okay. Great. Well, if there are any questions or if there are any clarifications, you can let me know. If there aren't any questions or clarifications too, then we can move forward. Okay, so since there aren't any questions, we can feel free and visit wikidata.org, right? Then inside the Wikidata tour, we can type Wikidata tour, right? Inside the search directory of Wikidata, then we can be able to also explore or navigate our way around Wikidata, the Wikidata item, the Wikidata statement, and try to also read and understand within the tutorial that has been made available within the Wikidata tool. So once you are done with that, you can share a thumbs up within the chat. Then I can be able to also continue. Now, if you want me to share the link to the top page too, I can just share it in the chat for you all. So whilst you guys are going through it, there's a tool for the item, tool for statements, tool for references. Then we can go a bit further to the coordinates, the images, inception date, official website, administrative territory. Then once you are done with that, you just give a thumbs up within the chat of a Zoom call. Then based on that, I can know that we can be able to continue.
No, Doris.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm not speaking. So I've given them the time to be able to also go through the tours that is currently on the Wikidata tour page. So on this page, there are tours that they should go through. Then when they are done, they can just give a thumbs up in the chat. Then I can continue from there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, when you are done, you can just give a thumbs up in the chat. Then we continue.
Please, can you kindly go over the assignments?
Yes, so the assignment, right, was that you visit the Wikidata tours page, right? Then on the tours page, you just click on start this tutorial, right? Then you navigate your ways around all of the tutorials that is currently on the tour page, right? Then when you are done, you just give a thumbs up in the Zoom chat, right? So it will take you to this particular page. This is the first tour, right, for the item, right? So you make sure that you read all of this. With this, it will give you a basic tour of how Wikidata is and how to contribute to Wikidata as a whole. right? So with the first tool, it's supposed to give you a general overview of how a Wikidata item is, right? Then how you can be able to also contribute to that Wikidata item or Wikidata item. Good. So with this, we know that we can add a label, right? As I stated earlier. Then it gives you more information regarding what labels are and what can be placed inside what a label is, or where we can be able to add a label. Yeah. Aside that, the next one is the description. Right? After we having an overview of what a description is, it gives us where, or it tells us where we can be able to add a description. Yeah. Then it gives us further information of what a description should be, or how we should be able to write our descriptions or add the kind of descriptions that we should be able to add to a Wikidata item. Good. Now, based on that, after we are done with that, the last one is the alias, right? Or also known as it gives us the information of what an alias is, what we can be able to insert or include inside an alias, or where we can be able to insert an alias. Yeah. Now, when we are done with that, how we can be able to publish it. So it shows us that we can be able to click on the correct sign to publish our edits, right? Good. Now, when we are done with that, it should take us back to the top page. Good. Then we move on to the next tool on the Wikidata top page, which is the statements. So based on the second tool, tells us how to be able to add statements to Wikidata. This is basically the assignment that I gave you. Right. So you follow all of this, you read through the statements and everything. Right. Then based on that, it tells you the properties and the values. What you can be able to insert inside the properties and the values as a whole. And if there are certain references to support your values that you have added to your properties, your properties, if there are certain references that you can add for your properties to, you can be able to add it to your properties. Right? Yeah, for the value, for the values. Yeah. So creating a statement, it tells us to be able to click on the add sign over here, right? To add a new statement to our Wikidata item. So I stated earlier. Yeah. And the next one is for the references. Inside this tutorial, it tells us how to be able to add references to a Wikidata item. Good. Any edits that you make within this particular tutorial is not published live, but it is being recorded in a form of like how you work in a sandbox, in a draft within Wikipedia user page. Right? That's how it all works. That's how it basically works. Right. So with our references, kind of references that you can be able to add, right? And based on that, it tells us where to be able to add our references as a whole. So, and we're also improving our references. So inside our references from this, we can be able to add our references. Yeah, same goes. Move to the next one, which is adding coordinates. The next one will be adding images. The following one for adding inception dates. The last one and the other one, official websites. So decide that to administrative territory, then you are done with that. So this was basically the assignment I gave you. And when you are done, you just give thumbs up, right, on the chat. That was it. Now, let me continue. Since I've already taken you all through the tutorial, we can visit this particular place. I want us to find something better to work on. So I'm going to post a link. Okay, yeah, that's it. I'm going to post a link within the chats, within those links, within this particular page, right? There are um, Wikidata items without labels on this particular page. Right. So this side, we can just click on this. Let me search for it. So all of these statements are without labels, right? So you click on every Wikidata item, then you go through the item. Then based on the item that you find over there, and based on the item, you add a label to that Wikidata item, then you save it. Yeah. So from now, so okay, so from now to let's say 5:45, it's now 5:35. So within 10 minutes, let's get to see the number of items that we can be able to add labels to. Right? But if you do not want to work on that one too, we can um, work on the ones without descriptions. Then based on that, so the ones without descriptions, based on that one, you can feel free and add descriptions to the Wikidata items that you can find at this particular site. So you add descriptions for it, then we can be able to also place 50. So we can try this out to 5:45. And if there are any questions, you can just feel free and ask me. If you need any clarification, you can also feel free and ask me. So you just click one Wikidata item. This Wikidata item over here. You click on edits, this edits, right? So yeah, that's edits. And it will take you to this particular description. After you've gone through the Wikidata item, yeah, and you understand what that particular Wikidata item is called. Yeah, you click on edit, then you add a description to it, a short description for that particular Wikidata item. Then once you are done, you click on the correct sign to publish it. So let's try that out. From now to 5:45.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Please, I'm a bit lost. I don't know what we are supposed to do now. I think I lost when you started the instructions earlier.
Yes.
Can you please go?
So I took you guys through the tour, right? And after the tour,
Yes.
I came back to this particular page, right? There's this page, minutes, right? So I came to this particular page. So this particular page is for us to be able to add labels. When I was making a presentation, I don't know if you guys remember, I made mention of labels and descriptions within every Wikidata item that we find. Then inside every Wikidata item that you find, every label, you find labels and descriptions. Sometimes you will find a Wikidata item without labels and descriptions. And within our first tutorial, our first tour that we did, within the tour assignments that I gave you, you'll notice that when navigating around the Wikidata item tour, it shows you the kind of label and the kind of information that you can be able to add as labels to a Wikidata item. Aside that, too, it also shows you the kind of description you can add to a Wikidata item. Right? Good. So when we were done with that, I came to this particular page, which is also a recommendation after the Wikidata tour for the Wikidata item tour. That at this particular page, there are a list of undocumented labels and items without labels and without descriptions in English, right? So the ones within English or the ones in the English language version, that is what I've given you all to work on at the moment. That is what you can find within the charts. So this first one over here, it's this first one over here is for the labels, right? For you to add labels, it's for
Okay.
the items that I have. That will pop up under the Wikidata items that generate within the list that's the search that I did. And the second one is for the descriptions. Minutes. It's for the description, right? For you to add descriptions to the Wikidata items that you find within that particular search, right? So within these links that I've shared, these two links that I've shared with you are search links for the items, Wikidata items without labels, descriptions. So you can choose between the two of them which one to work on. from now to it's almost 5:45.
5:45.
Yeah. So you raise that.
Oh yeah, that's what you're answering now. Let
Uh,
me lower it. Thank you.
so let's try and do something within from now to 5:15. Then from
5:45.
there.
Sure, sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so it's time. I would like to get to know how many Wikidata items that we were able to add descriptions to or labels to those Wikidata items. Daniel, if you can be able to let me know how many Wikidata items you've been able to add.
I did just one.
Just
I was having a challenge actually. I don't know whether it's because I'm using a phone, but it's difficult to navigate the page.
it's because you're using
So, yes, please. And then before while you were giving the instruction, I think you mentioned something about references that we could look through to edit the pages. But you didn't mention, was that a necessity or you just wanted us to just edit it and see like that we know
Yeah, so with the references,
the
that
process?
will come up later.
Please, you get it?
Yeah, yeah. I wanted you guys
Pardon?
to overview. I wanted you all to have how to be able how to have a feel
To have,
a Wikidata item.
oh, okay.
But with regards
Okay.
to the
So I
references,
just added, pardon? With regards to,
the references, right? If you're
yes,
working on let's say a Wikidata item, and maybe you added
yeah.
a value, and that value, some values will require you adding a reference.
Oh, okay,
And if there isn't a reference, you can just leave it like that. But if
okay,
there's a credible reference that you feel can be added to that particular value, you can just feel free, then you click on the reference icon, then you add it to the value of that particular Wikidata item. Sorry, the Wikidata statement within the Wikidata.
okay. Thank you.
And that's the purpose of the reference.
Okay.
And can you let us know the number of items that you are able to add in the description of the label to? Item cylinder is not a
And please, yes, so please, I was able to add one label and one description.
okay, great. And so far, how do you find it? Was it difficult coming up with a label and description?
Please, finding a label was a little difficult because I didn't know how to label it. I knew the process, but I didn't know how to label it.
So before you are able to add a label to the Wikidata item, you first need to know much more about the item. Sometimes within this Wikidata items, when you scroll down, there will be links to external links or links for that Wikidata item at the bottom, links to different pages. So it could be a Wikipedia article linked to that particular Wikidata item, right? Or it could be maybe a Wikimedia Commons image, right? Linked to that particular Wikidata item. Or maybe any of the Wikimedia projects have maybe a page linked to that particular Wikidata item that you are trying to find a label or expression for. So when you scroll down to the wikis aspect, you will definitely be able to have uh, a fair idea of what that Wikidata item is all about. So for instance, if this particular Wikidata item has a Wikipedia article, you can see it over here in different languages. If it has something related to Wikibooks, you'll find it here. If it has something related to Wiki News, you find it here. Same goes for any of the Wikimedia projects. So based on this, when we click on the Wikipedia article, it takes us to the Wikipedia article for us to read and have a fair idea or understanding of what that Wikidata item is all about. So if that Wikidata item doesn't have the level or description, once we are done navigating through any of the wikis, right? But so Wikimedia projects, it will definitely give us a fair idea of what that Wikidata item is all about for us to be able to add the level of description and even to be able to add some statements. So that's Wikidata item. So based on this, I guess there aren't any questions or there aren't any need for any clarifications. Or if there are anything, you can let me know. Okay. So I assume there aren't any at the moment. So we thank you all for making time for this particular call, this training. This training is being recorded and will definitely be shared with everyone. And you can feel free and continue to explore the Wikidata project. If you come up with any question or if you need any clarification once you're still on your way to trying and learning how to contribute to Wikidata, you can just feel free and communicate on the WhatsApp platform. We will try our possible best to resolve that within the shortest time as possible. Okay. So let me stop this recording.